Hey everyone, this is Tara the Painted Cicada, and I am live with you today to do rock painting. We have got this fun rainbow tree to use as inspiration. So I hope that you'll grab a rock and consider painting with me. In the sample here, you'll see that, well, maybe you'll notice. I did the first sample using paint pens, and I'm not going to do that today. So I'm going to try to recreate this, and I'm going to use some Q-tips for the dots. And I've just got some rainbow colors of paint, and certainly you could do this with any paint colors that you want. It doesn't have to be a rainbow tree. It would be fun even if you just painted along with me. You don't even have to paint a rainbow tree. Do whatever is calling to you this morning. But the first thing I'm going to do, in my sample, I didn't paint the rock. I am going to paint the rock today just to kind of seal it. So I'm going to do just a white rock, a white background, and then we'll start creating our tree. So I'm just going to paint this baby up with a nice coat of white paint. And usually I don't paint on rocks very often, so having this theme this month is kind of fun for me. I used to do it every spring and just kind of leave them around. But when I paint rocks, anyway, I digress. I'm long-winded sometimes. I like to put two colors of the base coat just to give a nice seal on the rock, because some rocks can have, even though they feel like they're a non-porous surface, some rocks are porous and they do kind of absorb up that paint a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. I've got my first coat here. I'm going to let it dry for just a second. If you're on with me live, feel free to say hello. If you're on the replay, say hi in the comments. I love to see who might be around. Here in Cincinnati, it's just a cold, rainy Wednesday. We got no sunshine. We got no excitement going on. Even my dogs are having a nap day. They're both just laying in here on the floor looking at me. They always wonder who I'm talking to when I do my lives. I think they assume I'm talking to them because they're the only people in the room, but I don't know. Maybe they just wonder why I'm talking to myself. Either way, they're both looking at me like, Mom, we're trying to sleep and you're talking. So there we go. I've got that coat there on the back. This step is the most boring step, just painting up the background color. Oops. Like I said, it's raining. It's a little humid in here, so I'm not having much luck with this drying quickly. So I'm just going to zap it with my heat gun briefly. Sorry, I know that's kind of annoying on camera. So I'm just going to go in with a second coat of white. So again, background color, you can of course pick anything you want. On my sample, I didn't use the background color. I was happy with my sample, but I kind of wish that I had. So today I'm just changing it up a little bit. So if you are just joining, don't worry about rushing. This is kind of a nice, quick, easy lesson. So, you know, once you get the general idea, it will be smooth sailing from there. So, you can paint your background color anything you want. If you're not in the same place as me, just go out, find a rock, come back, get a coat of paint on it, and we'll go from there. Ooh, there is a potential problem having a glass desktop when you're painting rocks. You have to be very careful. That would be bad, right? If I smashed a rock through my desktop on a video. A little embarrassing, a little expensive. All right. All right, that should really be the last I use that for a while. I know that sound is super annoying on camera. All right, so this is the part where I just kind of get out some paint. Like I mentioned, I grabbed these Q-tips. In my sample, I used a paint pen. So if you got a paint pen and you want to use it and do dots that way, that's a super easy way to do this. I had used Posca pens. If you have Posca pens instead of acrylic paint pens, know that Posca pens aren't acrylic paint. They are actually an opaque ink, and they will lift if you varnish. So they are okay to use, but you would need to use a spray varnish and not a brush varnish. Otherwise, you'll brush all your beautiful work away. I also have acrylic pens around here somewhere that I could use for this. I'm just going to use Q-tips and some paint. And this is a super easy design to do. There's really no right or wrong with it. It's just fun. So in my sample, you'll see, you know, through the middle, we've got our tree trunk, and then we've got kind of this beautiful rainbow leaf area. So I'm just going to dip in my cotton swab, and then I'm kind of creating these bands of dots. And what I want to do when I start here is I'm going to create each band a little wider than I need it to be. So for red, I'm going to go over some of the, like the bottom layer of this red with orange, but I'm just kind of dotting the upper layer here. And these are just going to be my red leaves. And I like this. This is going to give me a slightly different look than I had with the paint pens, which I felt was a little too, I don't know, rigid. So I've got my red here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my orange a little bit up in that red, and that way any of that red that's still wet is going to pick up and mix with that orange, and it'll have a nice smooth transition. And then I'll just repeat that with each color so that there's kind of a blended row and then a row of that unique color. Yellow, if you're working with yellow, is a traditionally opaque or transparent color. So what I like to do is just add a little bit of white to my yellow. It will lighten it a bit, but it'll help with the opacity so that you don't just see through that paint. So again, blending that yellow and orange across that bottom layer there. And I'll come through with my true yellow. Remember, with each layer, I go a little longer than I need to so that with the next color, I get that pretty little blend. And then at the bottom here with this purple, I did like to, I kind of made a few extra little drips going down just to make the appearance that maybe the leaves are falling a little bit. All right, so I'm going to let this dry for about a minute. I'm just going to let this sit here, and then we'll start with the next part. All right, so I can tell you I need to speed this along just a little bit for drying, but hopefully that was enough time for anybody joining late to catch up. And then really the last part here that we need to do is just draw in our tree. And for that, I just need some black. I do want the underlayer, the leaf layer, to be um, dry so that I don't smudge that up, but I'm just going to get a nice thin brush. I've got a liner brush. A nice thin round is what you want. And the way that I'm going to make this tree is I'm going to start here and I'm going to do my thinnest line first. And then what I'll do is as this gets lower, we know that the thickness increases. So I'm just going to add some thickness on each side as it gets lower. And then I kind of just, I'll draw a line and I'll work that line up to the tree here. And then I am going to start by making branches. And these are my main branches that are come out first. And then once I get my main branches in there, I can come through and just add secondary branches and kind of curl these branches out. So I like to make a curly tree. Your tree does not have to be curly. It can be, straight branches, whatever you want to do. And each one can be a little different. That's the beauty of it. And once I get all these main branches with some curly cues on there, really all I have to do now is come back in and I'm just going to fill in some of that empty space with more curlies. So wherever it feels a little empty, I'm just going to add them. And I just make sure they kind of go in all different directions. They're all different sizes. We're just filling in some of this open space. And the way trees work is you kind of have your main tree trunk in the middle, and then you have some main branches, and off of the main branches you have secondary branches, and off of those you even have, even more that come off the ends. So don't be afraid to make curlies off the ends of your curlies. I don't know what you call curlies off of curlies off of curlies, but I just kind of work it out until a lot of that empty space is filled. And I try to go a little bit smaller if I can, the farther out I go off these branches. No, but this is just, a made up idea. Obviously, this isn't a realistic tree, so you can make yours however you want and whatever variation that you want. Oops. Oops. My camera does not like when I get close. So this is where I ended up. So it's fun, it's easy. If you don't like this really thick dot design, the only difference between this and what I did in the sample was that I used a paint pen for the dots instead of a Q-tip or cotton swab. But really, you can kind of shake that up however you want. If you don't want to do dots and you just want to do bands of color, that's fine too. So you can kind of switch it up, experiment with it. Don't feel like you have to do a rainbow. Fall colors are beautiful. Non-traditional colors are beautiful. You can make this tree however you want. So have fun, paint rocks, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.